you so much for joining me today. Now, today I'm going to be creating 3 different versions of single color cards. So single color card making. I'm going to be using the innocent pink color. So basically just a light pink, baby pink sort of color. This happens to be the Gina K cardstock. It is, I think, either most of her cardstocks are 100 or 110 pounds. So a fairly good weight for a card base as well. That's how I use them, and I have no trouble at all. I'm going to create my card base and all my features using one single color. Now, if you don't already have the cardstock, of course you can do the same thing but with inking. That is going to work as well. You can cut them all out of white cardstock and then ink them all the same color. Or you could add in like a white or a vellum or something if you wanted to add a little bit of interest. Now, I will say, of course, single color cards are tricky to catch on camera sometimes, so I wouldn't say you get the full effect seeing it on here, but I have got close-up photos at the end. Make sure you stick around to check those out, and I think you'll get a pretty good idea of what they really look like. But I mean, you can get a good enough idea, but you know, it's tricky when you're capturing a single color on camera. So I have got a cover plate die. Now, as I said, I'm showing you 3 different ways. The first is using a couple of dies, and then the last way we're going to do like build your own style. So lots of different ways to do it because there is always another way. That's one of my favorite sayings because there truly always is another way. If you see a gorgeous creation or video by a creator, maybe on YouTube, maybe on another short form or long form media, there is usually a way that we can create this using the supplies that you have if you've been card making for a little while. Now, here's the exact thing. Any cover plate is going to do this. Any dies you can put together to make look like a cover plate. You could even just cut out some gorgeous little elements, and as I said, in card number 3, that's what I'm going to show you. For this one, I'm just going to do the Simon Says Stamp Starburst cover plate. Now, I did make a card front. That's why I had to cut the cover plate down, because the cover plate is A2 American, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So that would cover the entire card front if I popped it down. But I have to work really hard because we are using a single color and we want to create separation. We want to create interest and layers, and we have to work to do that. So that's why I created a card front, which I'm going to pop up with some foam tape. This is the 1 inch wide 1 millimeter foam tape from scrapbook.com, and I used 2 layers of it to layer it up to become 2 millimeters. Obviously you may have some already. You can layer up scrap pieces of cardstock behind there, anything that you want to give it a little bit of dimension. And I have cut this down to be about 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and that is going to give us that, the difference between the card base and the card front. Then I'm going to use the Fancy Just Because. This one has a shadow die. Again, if you wanted to add a different color in, I was really challenging myself today, but you might choose to make the shadow layer here white. That would make a difference, and it's something you could do, but that's not what I'm doing today. Everything is being cut out of the innocent pink cardstock. I do love the Gina K gorgeous cardstocks. I only have a handful of them, a small handful of them, and they're just kind of in the basic colors, I guess, like the primary colors, and then a couple of others that I really like because I lean towards blues, so that's what I like working with. Now, this is the sentiment that I'm going with, and as I said, from some angles it can be tricky to read, but when you get up close and when it's in person, it's really not tricky to read at all. Now, if you want to, you can leave it here. I'm going to embellish at the end and do all 3 cards at the same time, so just hold on, that card's not quite finished, but we are moving on. This is one of the gorgeous blues I was talking about. This is the Ocean Mist cardstock. Again, I make all my own card bases, whether it be in white using the Frenchville brand from Spotlight. That's the 110 pounds that I purchased from there in New Zealand, and you can also get it in Australia, but I make all my own card bases and card fronts. For this gorgeous blue, I'm going to use the Pink Fresh Curvy Leaves. This is it's an older die set, but it's one that's never leaving my stash. It is perfect. And for this one, we're just going to add This is kind of like almost what an embossing folder might do, except for we're doing faux embossing because we're using the leaves. Now I'm going to die cut this panel out, and the leaves are truly going to sink into the background, mainly because of the pressure of going through the die cutting machine, but we're just adding that extra layer of texture. Now I'm just adding some of these curvy leaves in the top left and the bottom right. It's just going to sort of frame our sentiment nicely, and it sort of does disappear. As I said, this card here might be the hardest to see. It's tricky, but I'm going to cut this out using the LDRS mixed scalloped rectangles die. Again, this has been an absolute favorite because rectangles is something that I'm going to use on every single card, and it is just one of those gorgeous, gorgeous basics. Now, this is the Concord and Night. This is an older one for sure, but all I want out of here is the word birthday. So find any stamp set, go through, see if you can find the word birthday, because I have my die for this is going to say wishes, but I need a little birthday to go birthday wishes. Now, I guess this is semi-breaking the rules, but there's actually no rules when I'm card making myself. I am going to emboss this in some gold. I could have probably done it in, like, stamped it in a blue ink and then heat embossed it with some clear embossing powder. That maybe would have worked too, but you know, that's okay. Rules are meant to be broken too, and so I have got a little bit of gold for that one. Then this is the Wishes from Paper Rose. Again, this is a shadow die. It has the shadow behind it, and you might like to do this in vellum or in white. I think that would look stunning too, but I am trying to stick to the rules, believe it or not, and I am sticking to my Ocean Mist cardstock. I'm using some art glitter glue. Dries very, very quickly, but is going to be nice and sturdy. Again, the reason that I am layering up all these sentiments is because we have to do something to create space between the layers visually, so that they don't all blend into one another, and we want to differentiate between the different elements of the card. So I am getting 3 layers of cardstock. Do 3, 4, 5, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how thick your cardstock is, just keep going. If you've got thinner cardstock, 80 pound or 60 pound, you might need a few more layers, and that's okay too. If you don't want to use glue, then you can add some double-sided adhesive before you cut it with your cardstock. That's going to be another great option too. Again, because these cards are beautiful and simple using the one color, that's why I'm using some different elements such as the scalloped rectangle to create that interest, and so you can see it creates that little shadow by itself around the outside, differentiates between the card base and the card front. So the leaves, and as I said on camera, really hard to see the leaves that we put in there, but they very much are there, and if you look at the end photos you'll see them, and when I move the card around you can definitely see them too. It creates a nice bit of interest that catches the eye. Now I am going to add things to these. As I said, we're going to embellish at the end when I get all 3 of these together, but this is card number 2 done and dusted, and then we're going to move on to card number 3. Now, I'm sort of going, I feel like, with primary colours here a little bit, so we're moving on to the yellow. This is the Wild Dandelion, and this is a strong, beautiful yellow colour, and this one's going to be a little more DIY, and I still think it creates a gorgeous, gorgeous background. Now, again, we're going to make my card base. My Spellbinders trimmer is my go-to for cutting cardstock. I have several of the other brands, and the Spellbinders trimmer is my favorite one. It is like a guillotine type trimmer, and I used to use just you saw the Dress My Craft one for the trimmer with the scoring blade. I use that completely for scoring. I still keep it for scoring, but as often happens, you do get a little bit sick of purchasing the blades for those, so that's why I invested in the Spellbinders one, and I absolutely love it. It's very sturdy, it's a good size, it's very sharp, the measurements are precise. I really like it. It sort of glides a bit nicer. Yeah, really like this one. But all we're going to do is cut some strips. Now, I am going to cut, I wasn't sure. At this point, I'm hesitating because I'm not sure how wide I want to do them, but I ended up doing them about 3/4 of an inch wide. Even 1/2 inch, you could do 1 inch, whatever you like. Now, just because of the size of my card base, I chose to do them about 3 3/4 inches long or wide, whichever way you want to look at it, and that way this is going to go across my card nicely. Now basically you just need to cut a whole lot of these. Now I will say, when I was filming this, the sun was absolutely because it is summer here in New Zealand, and when we get the sun, we don't want to shut the sun out, so it does get a bit brighter here. I'll fix it. There we go, all fixed. Well, the clouds have shifted at least. And then you want to build these up. So I'm going to actually build 5 in each layer. I want these to be some big, beautiful blocks in the background. I'm thinking Lego, like Lego inspired when I'm doing this card. And so we have got the card base, and then I'm going to build up these blocks. I mean, it's not meant to look like Lego, don't get that picture, but that's what I'm thinking of. We're going to use nice big long rectangles instead to create a background. Now, by all means, are there dies out there that create a similar look? Yes, but this one is more of a DIY version where we don't have to use the dies to create the background. And then, of course, your focal point can be your choice. But once I have my little blocks to go along there, I'm going to adhere these onto my card. And this fits pretty nicely for me to have 4. If you do thinner ones, it might be 5. If you do wider ones, it might be 3. It doesn't matter. It's just creating a gorgeous background. And then I'm going to glue these on. Again, I almost like to use, just because this glue dries so quickly, I've spaced them out pretty much exactly where I want them, and then I still do the top and bottom one first and then the middles. If you like a bit more time to fuss around and move them, then I would suggest more of a Ranger multi-medium and the matte finish glue. That's what my other preferred glue is, and that way it dries pretty quickly, and it dries completely clear and all the good things, but it gives me that 20 more seconds to move them around and get everything nice and equal, whereas the art glitter glue does dry very, very fast. Now, as for a sentiment, I'm going to use the Altenew Scripty sentiments. This is a newer one to my stash. I purchased this just to get a couple of fresh new sentiments, and mainly because of what they say and how they have the shadow dies too. So I really did like that. I'm going to pop Hello Friend on the front of this one. So I am layering up the piece of cardstock. Even though we've done that for the background too, this card here probably is one of the bulkier ones. It still fits nicely in an envelope, but I know that some countries have different charges and things when it comes to the thickness of their envelope when it goes through the machine, so that may cost you a little bit more. It might be a hand delivery card, and that's okay too. We all make different types of cards. The focal point for this one is going to be the Whirl bay leaves, which is, I just showed you really up close. It has so much detail, which again is tricky to capture on camera from a distance, but up close it's absolutely stunning. And I'm going to layer this one on the front. I just do one of the die cuts for the leaves. That's absolutely fine, but any sort of twirly, swirly foliage dies, even the curvy leaves that I used before from Pinkfresh, that would be another good one. Anything as a focal point to go on the front here, and then I'm going to glue all of this down, and the Hello Friend is going to sit nicely on top of those blocks. And then, as I said, for embellishments, you can use so many different options. If you wanted to use a glitter pen or a Wink of Stella pen, and you could go over top of some of the sentiments, or you could go over the top of that on the yellow one, the bay leaves focal point. You could add in just some embellishment mixes, which I'm going to do. These ones I really love because they're like they're like sequins, but they don't have the hole in the middle, and they're not cupped. They're sort of more flat, and so I really enjoy using these embellishment mixes. And these ones, of course, they're a little bit iridescent, so they really do capture the colors that are already used in the card, which just means they're really versatile. There's definitely more iridescent ones and a couple of colored packs as well. I'm choosing to put some of these on the background one here. And you could make an absolute pattern out of them, because obviously the Starburst background plate has like a pattern to it, so you could definitely pick the pattern and add them there. I add some yellow ones to the yellow, and then some iridescent ones to the blue. As I said, really versatile, and they capture the color of the background, but they create that little bit of sparkle, that little bit of movement on very one color card. So I hope that you stick around, have a look at the close-up photos at the end of this video, and if you're interested in any of the supplies, they are all linked down below. You can capture them there. And then I also have a website, natashafootecreative.com, if you would like to see more Natasha content that is exclusive to the website. It won't be here on YouTube at all. Not that YouTube is going anywhere, but I definitely have more Natasha over there if you'd like to see it. NatashaFooteCreative.com. And other than that, I will